Hi, and welcome to Sip Sip Hooray, the podcast. I'm Mary Babbitt.
And I'm Mary Orlin, and you've come to the place where wine is always fun.
We're glad you're here with us. We want to be a show that you turn to learn more about wine, but to kind of debunk the whole wine needs to be stuffy thing.
Absolutely. We want you to try something new and exciting and get out of your Cabernet and Chardonnay rut.
Today on our show, we're going to take you on a little field trip. We are taking the show on the road. This time, we're headed to the heart of the Silicon Valley, where amid all of the technology that surrounds the valley, you'll also find a really cool winery known for their Pinot Noir and Chardonnay.
And it's also one of California's most historic wineries, so it's really cool that it's here. People don't really think about Silicon Valley and wine, especially from the late 1800s, but it's right here. And this place happens to be one of our favorite places to go and just hang out and have some great wine.
Out on that deck, so nice. So come along with us as we visit Testarossa Winery.
We are here at the Testarossa Winery and Vineyards in Los Gatos, California, in the heart of Silicon Valley, and we are talking today to Rob Jensen, who's the co-founder of the winery, which he started up in his garage more than 20 years ago.
25 years ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's. I feel like it was really important to start at a young age because now in my mid-50s, I still got a long way to go. Robert Mondavi started his winery of his name when he was 54, so I feel like I'm only a 2-year-old winery. So we had a 23-year preseason.
You're just a babe in the woods when it comes to that.
So it is fun to be here. We are in one of your cellar rooms. This is a beautiful old room in what used to be the Novitiate Winery.
Yeah, the Novitiate of Los Gatos is one of the most important part of California wine history. Most people don't think of a winery that's 6 minutes from Netflix and 8 minutes from eBay and 12 minutes from Apple as being part of California wine history, but it was actually built in 1888. The cellar we're in right now was completed in 1892, and we use it for a lot of social events and dinners and corporate events and receptions for weddings and all kinds of different things. So it's really fun to have this authentic piece of California wine history right here in Silicon Valley.
And this looks like a wine cellar. I mean, we've got the vaulted ceiling, we've got the thick walls. It's actually very cool in here, which I'm sure was on purpose to keep all the wine cool.
Yeah, it's a great space. And you're going to hear in the background, it's a busy time at Testarossa. This is harvest time, so they're bringing grapes in, and you guys are getting ready for some catering events. So the noise you hear in the background is the sound of a busy winery, and we're happy to be here.
Well, it's very exciting. It's a living, breathing thing, and particularly during harvest, we have the smell of grapes that permeates throughout all of the cellars, the fermenting grapes
throughout
the buildings, and after the interview we'll go up and taste some of the grapes. We're just finishing our Pinot Noir harvest, so we're here in the early part of October. It's a later than normal harvest this year, which is actually nice. It gives a long hang time. The weather has been super mild, which we love. Last few years we've had some very big heat spikes which can dehydrate the grapes versus ripen them, so the ripeness is just fantastic this year. We're really excited about it.
So we're talking about the 2018 vintage, and I'm hearing from a lot of people that this could be the vintage of the century.
Just ask our marketing people.
Well, what we want to talk to you a little bit about is how your story and your path into wine. So you were in high tech and you were an engineer by training, but now you have this amazing winery and property. How'd you get here? How did that happen?
It's actually an interesting path that actually started on two wheels. And you might shake your head and go, what, two wheels? Well, I was a very avid bicyclist in the 1970s. And when I got to be in college, I was studying software engineering, and my partner and bride of 30 years, Diana, was studying electrical engineering. But I minored in Italian because of my love of bicycling. And because of a great program at Santa Clara University here in Santa Clara County, I had the opportunity to do a studies abroad immersion where I lived with a family in central Italy, in the town of Assisi, where St. Francis and St. Clair are from. The professor and his wife would take me, since I was a little older than some of the other students, on the trip to some wonderful dinners and drink some amazing wines and fantastic food, and it just opened this whole part of my brain that the math and the science and the computer programming didn't fulfill. And this passion exploded. Then my college roommate, his father was quite a wine collector, invited us over to a dinner at their home. Just some modest wines. People, the 45 Mouton, blah, blah, blah. Well, it was a La Crema Pinot Noir and a Mondavi Fumé Blanc at this dinner that went, wow, this is way better than the box of fine Rhine wine that we have in our apartment. So it really was the beginning of a journey that led to home winemaking. We never started this as a planned business. We never thought we would quit our jobs in high tech. We never thought we would have 165 employees.
Yeah.
But here, 25 years later, we're living the dream and having a fun time.
What was the turning point for you when you said, okay, I'm okay leaving my job in tech to do this full time?
Yeah, we were very fortunate. We started at Cinnabar Winery with George Torquato as the winemaker there. I volunteered. I love to tell my team members here that my first job in the wine business was super romantic. I got to park cars for their harvest festival where they were doing the grape stomp out in the vineyards.
Hey, that's important.
The cars need to be parked. Don't hit that vine. Slow. Stop.
Right.
Stop. So just started as a volunteering with Ron Mosley in the vineyards and George in the cellars. And he turned us on to a small vineyard that was just 900 vines off of Ziony Road, very close to David Bruce today. It was a mess. It was a Lockheed engineer who was doing it on weekends. It was 18-year-old vines. The deer fence had fallen down. There were redwood trees sprouting in the middle of the rows. But we took 30 friends and we went and restored this whole vineyard because we were just passionate. We couldn't stop learning about wine.
So cool. And you were the first winemaker for your winery, is that correct?
I love to tell people that they say, what's the best thing you ever did for your success? I said, well, we fired that first winemaker. He was incompetent. And then I give them my business card, and they go, oh, you were the first winemaker? Oh, yeah, there's no way I would run a winery with me as the winemaker. I made wine that I could drink, but not I could sell.
Nobody else could drink at home.
So George was our first winemaker when we moved here in Los Gatos in 1997. Shortly thereafter, Bill Brousseau graduated from St. Francis High School here locally, and then UC Davis. We met him through Michael Michaud, who was then the winemaker at Chalon, and he just said, this guy is going to be a superstar someday. And that was 18 years ago.
He's still here.
Bill is running his 19th vintage here.
Oh, wow, that's great. He's great.
And when you got started, you had to rely on help from some investors, and there's some story about you over-promising or overselling your vintage. Can you tell me about that?
Well, investors is a relative term. Our very first, this little vineyard of 900 vines, we needed to raise about $1,000 to buy material to repair the deer fences, to buy netting, a backpack sprayer. It was too small to have a tractor or anything, but for spraying for mildew and so forth. And we needed to raise about $1,000. Well, I had the idea of taking the old French concept of futures, but taking it one step further, which I called future futures, which means for $100, you can get a case of our wine and the exclusive right to come help us with the restoration of this vineyard. And if you don't turn in your $100, then you can't come help us do this. Well, I thought, I'll send this letter to 30 friends, and we were expecting the whole vineyard to make maybe about 15 cases.
Okay. Yeah.
There was a share crop deal with the Lockheed engineer. He said, I'm just thrilled that somebody's going to take it over. Give me a couple cases, and we'll call it even. Your labor is restoring, making my property more valuable. And of course, I wanted a couple of cases, and I thought, well, if we're making 15 cases, if I can sell 11 of them, then that would be great. So
That covers your costs.
That was your goal.
That was our goal, and we had a 6-month-old baby. We were in a tiny house that we overextended ourselves for. So we didn't, that amount of money seems small now, but in 1993 was a huge amount of money where we were. So I sent out 30 letters, hoping to get 10 people to send checks back. Well, I got 29 checks back. And that was really, I think, the changing moment where I had gone from engineering into marketing and sales, and the first thing you learn in sales is once you've got the order, especially you got the payment, you don't return it because you don't have enough product. You go find more product.
Yes, yeah.
And George Torquato told us about the Chalone Winery that was selling some grapes to promote the Chalone appellation. We ended up buying 3 tons of fruit from them for the 1994 vintage, which ended up making a little over 200 cases of wine. Which was way more than we needed, and cost way more than I had because, I had that extra $1,900. Well, it was, fortunately, the startup software company I was working for went public right at that point.
Oh, lucky you.
And my first stock options were able to just pay for those grapes and those barrels and the winemaking from year one.
This was meant to be.
Yeah.
It was, our first 10 years, we described it as running down a hill so steep that you can't stop.
Oh, God.
And then if you fall, it's good. There's just jagged rocks that will just shred you to pieces. So just keep running.
Keep running.
So this is important for people because so many people think, I want to get into the wine business. It's a lot of work, and I'm sure running down that hill was scary at times.
Well, it was particularly at times like when 9/11 happened. Our biggest markets were in New York and Boston and Washington and Hawaii and in Colorado, all the places that people couldn't fly to anymore.
Yeah.
So those were scary times. And the Great Recession. Well, the first thing that people stopped buying are luxury items. And even here in Silicon Valley, our events business is really important to our success. Apple was making money, hand over fist with the iPhone, but they didn't want to look irresponsible by going to this fancy winery.
Right.
And it was like, well, please come to this fancy winery because we may not be here by the time this recession is done.
Help a brother out.
But they've been great, and we've got just a lot of weddings. We do one of my favorite things is we do a lot of celebration of life ceremonies for people who really love wine, who their family comes and said, this was my father's, my grandfather's, my wife's favorite place to go. It was always so serene, and this is where we want to celebrate his or her life.
That's nice.
And not mourn, but share. And I've been invited to several of those, and it's very, very touching to hear the speeches and the goodness.
Well, isn't that what wine is all about, a celebration of life?
It really is. It really is. It's just such a joy. I mean, Diana and I pinch ourselves every day. We just kind of, how did 2 Silicon Valley engineers end up in this 130-year-old winery that has this amazing history with a fantastic winemaker and the cadre of vineyards that we've been able to partner with, mainly in Monterey, Santa Barbara, Santa Cruz Mountains, San Luis Obispo are just fantastic.
And celebrating 25 years, so congratulations.
Thank you.
You feel like tasting any wine today?
No.
Nah, not
How about we drink
some?
some?
What'd you bring us?
So one of the things that we really are emphasizing in the last few years is our education, wine education. Sometimes people call it edutainment. So we're having fun, but we're learning at the same time. And in Pinot Noir, which is our main red varietal, the biggest kind of mystery about Pinot Noir is this thing called clones, is the different genetic makeups of, they're all 100% Pinot Noir, but it might be a Pisoni clone or a 777 clone or a Swan clone.
I feel like people's eyes start rolling when you mention clone.
Well, they do because they don't know what it is. They hear the words, and what we've done is we've actually taken one vineyard and bottled 3 different separate bottlings, each clone. So you can buy these in a 3-pack. You can take one of our specialty classes or at Testarossa University. We have a whole class and understand, this is why these different things are mixed together. It's like a chef in the kitchen, will have multiple different spices that they'll put on a dish,
right,
as opposed to just one, because they all add a little different character. So this is from the Doctor's Vineyard. This is a vineyard that was planted by Nicky Hahn, the late founder of the Hahn family winery. It is called the Doctor's Vineyard, named after his daughter Caroline, who is a PhD veterinary, large mammal veterinary doctor, and her goal is to preserve the large mammals in sub-Saharan Africa. So she works out of the UK, but does a lot of work in the vineyards. And the name Doctors came because she was is a very private person, and her dad wanted to name the vineyard after her. He named 2 other vineyards after her 2 brothers. And they compromised, and they call it the Doctor's Vineyard after. Well, of course, we have a lot of medical doctors here, so we to each doctor that we come, we tell them it's named after.
It's theirs.
So this is from the 2016 vintage, and it's a special label that was really a takeoff of the handwritten labels that we have in the cellars.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a 777 clone.
That's really good.
It's got a real deep mid palate and long finish. It's not as aromatic as the Swan that we'll have. So, in our final blends, the Swan will give a lot of the aromatics. The Calera clone, which will be the second one we taste, has a lot more of a savory character.
Okay.
So you get a layer of the rich fruit from the 777. We taste the Calera. You'll get some savory characters with just really round. Now I'm starting. My mouth is starting to water.
Well, you should take a sip now.
Yeah.
Time to drink. This is really earthy and like rich black fruit, like lots of black cherry and
Yeah, cherry for sure.
Yeah, they come in a 3-pack, so you can get all 3 and then have a dinner party and say, okay, which one do you like? And the biggest thing we hear back is people, they blend their own.
Oh, that's
And
great.
the goal is
So they play winemaker.
right, is they have a 4th glass, and then let's take a little bit of each one of these, and then make one that's better than each one of the individual.
Oh,
cups.
that's so fun.
That's
That
great.
is a
So
great idea.
it's a winemaker in a box.
Yes.
Love it. That's
And the whole thing is now you have to have. Well, you don't have to have more than 2 people, but with 3 bottles, you probably want to have more than 2 people.
exactly.
You got a
Well, there's
party in a
3 of us.
box.
This works good.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's
we should
great.
move on to what's the next one?
So we'll do the Calera clone.
Okay.
So this is Josh Jensen, who is no relation but a dear friend. Founded the Calera Winery, I think 45 years ago in San Benito County, which is very close to Monterey, right next to Monterey. And he has a background of studying winemaking in France and as one of the real true California wine pioneers for Pinot Noir. I was very honored when he was inducted into the World of Pinot Noir Hall of Fame, and I was one of 3 of his colleagues that was asked to speak on his behalf. And
that's
I
nice.
thanked him for paving the way for us youngsters. We've only been doing this for 25 years. Standing on the shoulders of greatness, you can see a little bit farther. So.
Yeah, this is really beautiful.
And it is so different from the first
Yeah,
one.
you said it's round and supple. It's nice.
Yeah, that's when you mention clones, is that most people do kind of roll their eyes a little bit because they've never had the chance to taste them individually. It's almost like if you go into a kitchen and here is my Mediterranean spice rub, but you've never tasted oregano separate from garlic,
Right.
separate from paprika.
That's
And
a
it's
great way to describe it.
So now when you taste each of the different pieces, like,
Yeah.
oh, well, these together would
I
go
get this,
really nice.
yeah.
Do you find that your visitors, your customers are becoming thirstier and thirstier, if you will, for more knowledge, to know the difference between the clones, to know what goes into the wine blend?
Yeah, absolutely. It just makes it so much more fun. And anything that is really interesting, you want to learn more. And when you get to drink while you're learning, that's even extra more fun. So,
I mean, if my university had had wine, I would have done so much better.
You wouldn't have graduated.
Maybe not.
so we actually have 4 full-time wine educators. So we have what we call Testarossa University that runs year-round. So that's typically on Tuesday or Wednesday evenings. And Testarossa.com will have a tab that says Testarossa University on that.
Yeah.
And then on
And who are the students? Who's interested in this?
it is everything from millennials to people who are great grandparents. That just it's the older ones. They're often saying, well, I wish I had learned this 40 years ago because I would have enjoyed wine so much more.
Yeah.
And I've had the good fortune to sit in on a couple classes over the years, and they're really fun, and you taste wines that are not just Testarossa wines.
Oh yeah. It's education first. Of course we always have a little twist because we are here. But one of the favorite ones is the Wine Route 101 that goes from Willamette Valley all the way down to Santa Barbara. So tasting the different Pinot Noir that are all within 5 miles of Highway 101,
Wow.
1,000 miles apart.
Yeah.
So it's
That's great.
That's fantastic. Yeah,
I know.
fascinating.
Absolutely. Well, let's taste the last one. And as you're pouring that, Rob, I'm curious, what has really changed for you, for the wine industry, since you started Testarossa?
Wow, that is
In a sentence.
Yeah, that'll a lot. Next question.
Pass. But how have you seen things change in terms of the wine scene in general, and also we'll get into this a little more, the visitor experience and what visitors want today versus what they wanted 20 years ago?
Well, the depth of knowledge of the wine lovers is much higher. The internet has been a tremendous boon for education, because you can travel to the vineyards of France and you can do everything but taste and smell the old cellars from the second century in Champagne, which we never could do before.
Yeah.
So the knowledge is there. People want to learn more. The big challenge, and where we've completely reinvented our business, was 15 years ago, we were distributed in 38 states and 9 countries. So you could buy Testarossa Pinot Noir at the Four Seasons in Tokyo, the Grand Hyatt in Dubai, Harrods Department Store in London,
Wow.
Toronto,
All over the place.
Amsterdam, et cetera, et cetera. Of course, New York, Chicago, but now with the globalization, there's so many more wineries, not only in North America, but around the world.
Right.
And price cutting and so forth, that we've completely changed our model, where we're 90% now direct to consumer, meaning that there are 90% of our sales come from people who come to the winery, who are one of our 5,000 wine club members, both here and our tasting room in Carmel Valley Village, which we opened 2 years
That's
ago.
right.
That they can come here and not have to rely on some internet review or some wine writer that whose name is on the magazine, but he sold the magazine 3 years ago, and we all know who I'm talking
Yes.
about. But people can come here, they can taste. We have our outdoor wine bar. They can sit
have an
down. They can have live music. They can take an education class. All kinds of special things. But tasting the wine here in these 19th century cellars is just magical.
Absolutely, is it? And you never forget that. You go home and you tell your friends about it. And when you have a bottle of Testarossa, you remember, that takes you back.
associate it,
You
of
remember
course,
what
yeah.
a great time you had.
Well, one of the favorite things when we designed our current label for the 2007 vintage, so that was 11, 12 years ago, the input from one of our team here was have the image artist rendition of the entry to the winery, and she said, have one of the doors open, because we want people to know we're open 7 days a week.
Yeah.
And I've probably heard our members and visitors tell their friends this 1,000 times.
Aww.
And it's kind of really kind of fun, subtle little marketing of where it's so many up in the North Coast and so forth, because there's so many wineries. You by appointment, and it's $75 to taste, and
Right.
all that. So we're kind of a little bit of a throwback on that.
Come on down.
Well, and I don't think, for visitors who come to Northern California, especially outside of the state, and aren't as familiar with the wine scene here, they're probably surprised to find out there are even wineries in Silicon Valley.
Right, it is fascinating in the midst of all this technology that here you are in the middle of Silicon Valley, and and a huge draw for all the techies. It's a nice respite from the world of technology that we're surrounded by.
Yeah, we often get told that, especially like, I mentioned our friends who make the iPhone a little bit earlier, they have a new $5 billion spaceship and the most cutting edge vent rooms and so forth, yet they still like to come here to get away from it all. And it's only 17 minutes away.
Yeah.
So
Very cool.
you can't really recreate an 19th century cellar.
No,
Well, they probably could, but it's a recreation.
Exactly.
This is the real deal.
Yeah, it's authentic.
Hey, tell us about this third clone we're tasting.
So this, the third clone is the Calera clone that, I'm sorry, we declared the Swan clone. So, sorry, we did declare. So the Swan clone is, Joe Swan is one of the very, very early pioneers of California Pinot Noir up in the Russian River Valley. and one of the first people in California to actually name a clone after the genetic mutation that happened in his vineyard up in the Russian River Valley. So this is a wine that gives the most feminine character to the wine, gives the most aroma,
It's so
the most
floral.
delicate, it's so floral. It's very perfumey. Where the 777, that's kind of the Arnold Schwarzenegger, and this is the Sophia Loren that they just give both strength yet have that beauty and that elegance.
Yeah.
Really nice.
Yeah,
So-
you can smell and taste such a difference. This is so much fun. And we are always looking for ways to make wine more fun, more approachable for people, and I think this does
I
it.
love this blending in a box thing.
Yeah.
I also wanted to ask you about the fact that Diana has been your partner in this all these years, and you have 2 adult children?
Yes.
Are they into the business as well, or?
So our daughter Claire just graduated in accounting from Santa Clara University, where Diana and I met, and where her brother went. So we're all Broncos. She's actually working in a parallel industry in accounting. She is working for a startup firm that is focused on accounting services for the cannabis industry.
Oh, interesting.
And so she has gone to some of their clients. She said, "Dad, this is just like what I grew up with. Here's the farm. Here's how you process it. Here's all the government regulations. You got to make sure people don't get too intoxicated and token drive. And it's
well, and the different varieties and the
different varieties
the different buzzes or whatever.
Yeah, she just thought that was just the funniest thing of how similar they were, because they grew up in this of, well, this is what mom and dad were just focused on, and any teenager or whatever is like, well, I don't want to do what my mom and dad are doing, because that's not cool.
Yeah.
Our son, he's a civil engineer. He works for a big commercial contractor, DevCon Construction here, owned by Gary Felicetti and Brett Cisney, who also happen to own our largest single grape source, the Fogstone Vineyard in the Santa Lucia Highlands. So and they both went to Santa Clara.
Okay.
So it is a very very small
I'm
circle.
sensing a theme here.
Yes. So yes, our little joke is that if we're late for paying for our grapes from your vineyard, you can just dock our son's pay, which Gary and Brett and Diana and I think is hilarious.
Yes.
Nick doesn't think it's funny at all.
Yeah.
So, but Nick's been dating a young lady for a year who actually got her enology degree at Cal Poly. And his interest in wine has skyrocketed since he started dating Erin. So,
isn't that something?
So your people say, your kid's going to take over the business. And my common response is, I had the great fortune to be on a panel and meet Robert Mondavi many times before he passed away at the age of 94. Well, he retired when he was 93.
Yes.
And his brother Peter, who ran the Charles Krug Winery, retired at 100 and died 6 months later. So my response is, I'm retiring at 130, and so I still got a good 60, 70 years to go. I'm not sure how that math works.
Well, we sure know you're doing great things, and we're glad you're
Absolutely.
celebrating 25 years. Should we do some rapid fire questions?
We should.
Uh-oh.
So
I need
I'm
a
just gonna
drink.
There you go. All right, so here we go. Cork or screw cap?
Yes.
You don't care either way?
We actually, in 1999, we had a corked bottle of our Diana's Chardonnay, which is our reserve Chardonnay, at home. And I was so mad, I sent a email to our then 42 people on our email list, there's now 30,000, I think, saying, what if you could have this wine with dead tree bark or a perfect screw cap, what would you choose? And of course, I skewed.
Dead tree bark.
Yes, I did. I had a glass or two of wine when I sent them. Well, the responses were overwhelmingly, like 85% were like, whatever makes the wine better. However, the top 10 customers that we had at the time, every one of them said, we will never buy another bottle of your wine if you put them in screw caps. So we have our entry level, our low oak level wine called Cuvée Los Gatos by Testarossa. That usually sells between $18 and $25 a bottle. That's all on screw cap.
Yep.
And we've been making screw cap wines for close to 15 years now.
Okay.
And that when it's the Testarossa wines, when you get to $25, $30, $40 and above, people still want corks.
They want that cork.
And we have no restrictions, guarantee. You have a corked wine, you drop the bottle on the ground, it gets frozen in shipment, which happened to Mrs. Schwartz in Chicago when a friend of her husband sent a bottle from Seattle to them in Chicago.
goodness.
We replaced the wine.
Yeah.
We don't care.
Sure.
So you're always going to be guaranteed.
All right, so yes is
All right,
the answer.
so
How
let's
about-
get back on track.
Okay.
Rapid fire.
Red, white, or pink?
Yeah. Yes. No
You
way.
can't just say yes to every question.
All right, let's try this one. Stem or no stem?
No stem.
Why?
In California, the stems are rarely lignified. They're typically very green.
Oh, no, I'm not talking about the grapes, glassware.
Oh,
Stem-
glassware.
Stem,
Oh, I thought you were.
stem or no stem?
Stem, absolutely.
Okay.
Okay. How about go-to wine on a regular weeknight?
Go-to wine on a regular
Yeah,
weeknight.
like is it a Chard? Is it a Pinot? What do you open more of?
You know, we drink a
quick.
lot of Chardonnay. I would say we always start with a Chardonnay, but sometimes we finish with other things.
What do you drink when you're not drinking wine?
Irish whiskey. I like to finish my evening with, being 3/4 Irish. I don't know, just something genetically calls me back to the old Emerald Isle.
Okay.
Maybe biggest mistake you've made along the way?
Wow, that's
Too hard?
no. I just I mean, there's I have to credit Bill Murphy at Clos Lachance. He gave me some advice very early on. He said, as soon as you identify a mistake, the first thing you need to do is cut bait and not try to fix it.
Yeah.
And I've taken that advice and
So you don't look back.
yeah,
Bait
that's
and go.
kind of like just take your small loss. It's the gambler who's like, oh, I'm going to make it up. Like, no, that never happens.
Good
Yeah.
point. I like that.
Okay, your favorite place to drink wine?
My backyard.
Aw.
Nice.
Most memorable wine location? Like, have you traveled and found a really special place for, whether you discovered a wine there or just to enjoy a bottle of wine? Most exotic?
The first thing that comes to mind is in Chianti Classico winery called Felsina. We stayed at a bed and breakfast they had at the winery. It's near Siena. And Giuseppe Mazzucolin, the owner and winemaker there, just for Diane and I, he opened like 8 bottles of wine for lunch. Of course, we didn't drink all of them, and then he sent us back to our room with them, and we just, this is the coolest thing. And it was a cold September day, and we finished with some grappa in this giant fireplace where we could actually sit inside the fire. It was like 8 feet high,
wow.
5 feet
Massive?
deep. Oh yeah, it was just kind of one of these. So yes, Felsina.
Sounds pretty cool.
Oh, nice.
Chianti.
Yeah. Ice cube or no ice cubes in wine?
If it needs it, absolutely. Yeah, it's most medium-priced restaurants can't afford the refrigeration to serve a red wine at cellar temperature, which for me, I like my red wine at 60 degrees. So you will see me 20, 30 times a year in a restaurant. One here locally, I won't mention them, but that I'm always putting a little bit of ice in my red wine.
Mm-hmm. Any varietal you don't care for?
Zinfandel.
Interesting.
Sorry, Paul Draper.
It's okay. Best wine you or Bill Brousseau here has ever made for Testarossa?
I would say the 2005 Diana's Chardonnay, which is our reserve Chardonnay, that wine, I wish I had 10 cases of it right now. The last bottle we drank was when I was 12 years old, and we said, oh God, this wine's got 20 more years on it, but it's so good that we
It
just
won't last.
finished it. Yeah.
All right. What would you tell yourself 25 years ago? What would you tell young Rob? What bit of advice would you give him now?
I get asked a lot about, what advice do you have for me to get in the wine business? And right now I say, don't do it. Enjoy wine. It's, we were extremely lucky. We met Gary Pisoni serendipitously on a day where, he had overslept. We were going to leave, but it was garbage day, and found an odd-shaped bottle, which was a first-growth Bordeaux, in his recycling bin out in his farmhouse in
Did a little
Gonzales.
dumpster diving, did you?
Yeah, and it was like if I had not been there on that garbage day and saw that bottle of wine, we probably wouldn't be sitting here. So there's so many lucky breaks that we've had along the way that But the biggest advice is don't get set in your ways. Be adaptive. People don't like change, but if we had not changed what we did 15 years ago, to be focused on the tasting room. At the time we took over the tasting room here in 2003, we didn't have the money to do it. And the bank wouldn't loan us money. It was the worst recession in a generation. We don't forget about that because of 2008, 2009. but we had to go get some personal loans to be able to take over the whole lease for this winery, from friends, and that was the best thing we ever did.
Awesome.
We're glad you did.
This is not a rapid fire question, but we can't let you go without bringing up the fact that we've known you for some time now. When we started our TV show In Wine Country, some of our listeners may remember, you were one of the first guests. We did a segment on Testarossa back in 2004.
Wow, was it 2004?
2004.
That was back when I had red hair.
You did have red hair. And that had something to do with the name of the winery, right?
Yeah, well, that was the family that I lived with in Assisi. I grew up in Palo Alto with bright red hair and being called the Carrot Top when I was younger. Well, when I went to Assisi with my my studies abroad, the first thing they said to me was "Bienvenuto, Signor Testarossa," which means "Welcome, Mr. Redhead."
Oh.
So Testa is head, Rossa is red, and that's why the name of the winery is Testarossa. For our 25th anniversary party about a month ago, I secretly had my hair dyed back to the red it was 30 years ago.
Oh, that's awesome.
A lot of people thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah,
I love
that's
it.
pretty cool. Awesome.
Well,
But
we
it's just been so great, revisiting and
Catching up with you
seeing
again.
what you're doing and seeing how successful you and Diana and your crew have been, and just all the joy you're bringing to people here in the wine world.
Well, I knew that this was the future for us when one of our very first restaurant placements was in Sausalito, and I got a letter from a gentleman who said, "I never drink white wine, but the waiter insisted trying a Testarossa Chardonnay, and said that if I don't like it, then the waiter will buy me the bottle." Well, it was the first bottle of white wine that my wife and I have consumed in 20 years. We are now huge white wine fans. We've joined your wine club. And he signed it, "Thank you for making things that make people happy."
Oh, who doesn't want to do that,
And
right?
that was the day that we stopped making wine and we started making happiness.
Oh, Rob, that's
Perfect.
a great way to end this
Perfect.
segment.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I just blended mine a
I know
little
Mary
bit.
was, pouring a little bit of this and that into your
Yeah, to
glass.
make my perfect Mary blend.
What do you
and
think?
I love it. Actually, I
Right.
loved all three clones, but my blend is especially good. And what a delight to get to visit with you, Rob.
Well,
Thank you.
great to
And
see
we
you
want
guys.
to make sure we invite all of our listeners to come out to Testarossa Vineyards and Winery here in Los Gatos. It's not far from San Francisco. You're about an hour from San Francisco
Correct.
if the traffic's rolling. Maybe 15 minutes from San Jose. It's a great spot where you can enjoy a glass of wine out on the patio and have fun with your friends. It's lovely.
Yes, so we will post some information on our website at sipsiphoorayypodcast.com, links to Testarossa, a list of the wines we've tasted, and some photos too. So Rob, thanks for joining
Yeah,
us.
You're
give our
welcome.
best to
Thank you very
Diana. Cheers, Rob.
Cheers.